What's crack-a-lackin'? It's your boy Broshmo. Just in case you did not know, so we're back with the Senior Bowl winners and losers from Senior Bowl week. Duh. But if you're new here, welcome. Glad to have you. Go ahead, become a bro, subscribe, leave a thumbs up if you enjoy the content. I do a lot of draft content as well as other NFL stuff. I'll have safety rankings out this week, Friday. I'll have it out Friday. And next week, I'm just going to put out my tight end and my defensive interior rankings as well. On top of, I think I'm going to have a redo of, I think, the edge rusher. Maybe a receiver. I haven't decided yet. So you're going to have a bunch of rankings out next week. On top of still doing some of the off-season NFL teams, what ifs. So that's pretty fun. Get some hate, but hey, hate is going to hate. Am I right? So let's go ahead. Let's see who won Senior Bowl week. Let's see what's up with that. First off, I want to say you won't see guys like Javon Kinlaw on here. You won't see Josh Jones because I assumed they would do well, and guess what? They tore it up. They did do well. This is more so for prospects that surprised me or significantly improved their stock. Everyone also no quarterbacks here. Justin Herbert. Everyone expected Herbert to do well, and honestly, I mean, it was more risky for Herbert to go to the Senior Bowl than it was to actually benefit him, you know, because if he did well, I mean, that would have plummeted his stock. I mean, everyone expected him to do great, and he's still kind of sitting at, okay, well, that's nice. Basically, no running backs on this list either. You know, if you know me, you know I'm not high on running backs. It's just a very disvalued and underappreciated position in the NFL. But if I had to pick one, I really liked Baylor's Jermichael Hasty. He's very compact. He's like 210, 205, and only 5'8". Didn't mind what I saw from him in the past game. Still a late 3, maybe even an undrafted free agent type of prospect. But let's go ahead. Let's get in. We're going to start the list with Kyle Duggar out of a very small school there. He helped his stock a ton. I love his return ability, but I really wanted to see him versus top tier competition. He was fine in one-on-ones, and during the game he played pretty close to the line, but I think this guy's quick. I think he has the ability to play the deep half. I think he has the speed to do it, but he processed plays very quickly. The guy, he knows football. He's got a high football IQ. You know, this guy watches a ton of tape. Sounded like he was very good in, he interviewed extremely well. And in a pretty weak safety class, I think he made himself a ton of money. I'll go a bit more into him on Friday with the safety rankings, but I definitely see him as a third-round prospect at this point. Next up, we got Marlon Davidson. And I mean, you know, if you're not new to the channel, if you've been with me for a while, you know I love this guy. I've loved him since last April. The only thing stopping him was he was a limited athlete coming off the edge. At Auburn, he played on the edge. He doesn't have the speed. He doesn't have the quickness to play on the edge at 280. Like Iowa's AJ Epinesa. That dude's a phenomenal athlete. So I thought he would kind of fall into this tweener type of role we kind of see from Seattle's Quentin Jefferson. It's just a role that's not very appreciated. It's not very, I guess, highly sought in the NFL, especially in the draft. That's why you won't see North Carolina's Jason Strowbridge on this list, because, like I said, that role in the NFL is not highly drafted. Quentin Jefferson, he was a 5th-round pick. But Davidson, he came in, right? He came into Mobile weighing 297. And let me tell you, it wasn't fat. This guy, you could see in the picture, it was short shorts. He looked like he was ready for the strongest, the world's strongest man competition. He looked great. He only really had 1 day of practice though, but that's all I really needed to see. He retained the quickness he had, and putting that on the putting him in the interior and that 3 tech. Oh, that's gonna be scary. I mean, the dude put on 20 pounds and didn't lose a step. I love it. He could, honestly, I have him here as a 2nd rounder right now. He could be at that tail end of round 1. He was that impressive. I love me some Marlon Davidson. Y'all know that though. Bradley Anae out of Utah proved he is probably the best technician in this draft. That's not Chase Young. And even then, I mean, it's a fight. The guy is just really good with his hands. We all knew the athletic limitations of Anae coming into this, but it was really good to see him constantly win with his hands, win one-on-ones in practice. And when it came to the game, the guy, I mean, a lot of the pass rushers played extremely well. The tackles weren't that great. But the dude, he had 3 sacks. He was constantly harassing the quarterback. He was the reason Jalen Hurts threw a pick. I mean, he was literally hitting him as that ball came. The guy was pressuring. And suddenly, you think about that bad game by Trey Adams. He gave up 11 pressures to Anae, Trey Adams. It don't look so bad anymore. But expect to hear this man's name called in the second round. He was great. And then Joshua Uche was a guy I had pretty high. If you've seen my edge rusher rankings, you knew I thought very highly of the guy. I don't want to say I was the first one to jump on putting him in that second round mix, but just saying. So basically what happened this week, he put on a week everyone expected to come from Wisconsin, Zach Bond. The guy, we knew Uche was an athlete, but he was coming in at only 241. And boy, the dude could drop back into coverage. I don't really remember seeing that much at Michigan, which really blew my mind. And that really helps him, especially coming in weighing only 241. Best believe him dropping back into coverage, that helped sell him to a lot of teams. He also had a sack. He had multiple pressures in the actual game. A guy that just really helped his stock. And then on to Denzel Mims. He put on a show, man. He put on a clinic. I didn't question this guy if at 6'3" if he was going to be physical enough. Because if you go back to that bowl game against Georgia, whose corners are known to be extremely physical, whose defense, whose secondary is known to play extremely physical, borderline pass interference-esque, just saying. But he played very physical in that game, and mix that with his explosiveness, especially at the line of scrimmage. This guy, he talked himself into the early second round, in my opinion. Also, didn't record a drop during the game or during practice. I thought this would be the week Brandon Ayuk from Arizona State would have. Not to say he had a bad week, because he didn't, but Mims definitely was the best receiver at the Senior Bowl this week. And and comparing him to Ayuk, was a guy that was getting a lot of first round buzz, and for Mims to come out looking like the best receiver at the Senior Bowl, I'm just saying, just putting that out there. Another guy, Van Jefferson. Man, this is an interesting one because I thought this guy would be more of a special teamer type of guy. But he put on a show, man. In practices, he was often matched up against UCLA's Darnay Holmes, and he came away winning a majority of those. So, just saying, not a knock on Holmes, but just saying, Jefferson looked really good. We knew the dude was quick based on his time as a special teamer there in Florida. He didn't really get the chance to really showcase it though, as far as in the route. Like, this guy, he's quick. He could change direction. He could turn on a dime at the stem of the route. Like, just ridiculous. My thing is, I think he will have a little problem with press man coverage. Those bouts with Darnay Holmes, the one-on-ones, it looked like he did have some trouble coming off the line of scrimmage in press man. But honestly, you could just plop this guy in at slot, and it kind of you avoid that. You solve that problem. This guy, he's very similar to another guy I'm about to talk to. He shot up boards. He probably made the biggest leap of any of these other guys. I kind of saw him as a late day 3. Now we're talking about him potentially day 2, early day 3. So good job on Jefferson. Didn't know his dad's actually a wide receivers coach too. You learn all kinds of things by watching TV. Am I right? KJ Hill at Ohio State. This is the other guy who helped his stock a ton. Probably made outside of Jefferson, made the biggest leap for me than any of the other receivers. I thought he would be a slot receiver only at the next level. Now, if you remember, that's really the only role he played at Ohio State. They didn't really use him on the outside ever. I had him ranked as my 24th receiver in my last rankings. And I mean, I was thinking he was at best a 5th rounder. Oh, man, I don't blame myself. I don't blame myself for thinking that. Because, I mean, I looked at him based on his tape. So, based on what I saw and what everyone else saw, he kind of looked like a value brand Paris Campbell. I'm just saying. But no, the dude came in, showed he had a way bigger route tree than a lot of people anticipated. Showed he could separate on one-on-one drills. I mean, it was just okay, look at the picture I got down there. That's him destroying Hussein Bassy, which is another guy I gotta talk about later. But look at that separation. It was just and this is the thing. It was really important to see him play well in those one-on-one drills against man, because when you play in the slot, especially in college, separation can kind of be schemed. Production can kind of be fabricated. That's kind of why I'm not as high as most people are on Justin Jefferson, because he played almost strictly in the slot all season. He was given a lot of space. So let's not get into Justin Jefferson, because I'm a fan. I still love me some Justin Jefferson. But on top of his route running, he was making some highlight catches. I still have a little reservations because we didn't see that in college. I mean, I get it. Ohio State, they pump out a lot of good prospects, especially at the receiving position. But for him not to really ever get a chance to play on the outside, it's still alarming. But I feel a lot better now about if I were a team, I feel a lot better now about drafting Hill than I did before. Just saying that. Next guy we got on the list, Harrison Bryant. He looked like the top tight end in a weak group. He's my number 1 tight end currently. You could also throw Dayton's Adam Troutman up here as well, but I think Bryant looked more dynamic. He was winning one-on-ones, making tough catches constantly throughout the week. Also, it was nice to see him. They used him a bit as an inline blocker, which was really good, and he did that well, because that was a big thing. That's a big thing actually with a lot of these tight end prospects this year, is they're great playmakers, but when it comes to blocking, yeah, it's a bit scary. Next guy I got on the list, Damian Lewis at LSU. Man, this guy, he was overshadowed at LSU by Charles, by Cushenberry, who was also there at the Senior Bowl, also looked pretty good. And the GIF, whatever the heck you want to call it, machine himself, Adrian McGee. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, type in Adrian McGee versus Vandy, because oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. That's all I gotta say. Oh my gosh. But I had him kind of around late day 3, Lewis, that is. But when he showed up, oh geez, I don't know why, but like the dude measures ridiculously. 6'2", 329. He looks like an NFL guard and then some. He didn't look that way on the field during the season. I don't know why, but yeah, it kind of makes sense, because what you are gonna see in that tape though during the season. Okay, the guy's a limited athleticism. Well, when you're that size and that strong, you can kind of chuck athleticism to a degree out the door. I mean, this guy will not be beat by linemen if they try to overpower him. He will not be overpowered. You could throw, I know I've seen this complaint on many I guess scouts, analysts, that he was beat by Derek Brown. I mean, and going back to the game, it was really a back and forth that and it was the first game of the season too, so I don't know, I take that with a bit of a grain of salt. I think I'm more impressed with him, how he held up against Derek Brown, rather than him occasionally getting beat by Derek Brown, because Derek Brown's a phenomenal prospect. If anything, that's just more of a case why Damian Lewis should be a day 2 pick. That's where I have him. He's currently my number 4 offensive interior. I like him, especially in a power blocking scheme. I'm not gonna lie, man. You might see this. You might see the Baltimore Ravens drafting this guy in the second round in one of my mocks. I'm just saying, I've kind of fallen in love with Damian Lewis. And then likewise, let's talk about Jonah Jackson, which was another guy I don't want to say I was high on him at the beginning of the year, but I was very intrigued. He was a transfer from Rutgers, and he played great there. He moved inside the Big Ten to Ohio State, and his level of play kind of remained the same. It didn't really go up. I had him as a day 3 guy, and honestly, he's pushed his way up my board. He was so dominant at the Senior Bowl. Small lower half, but boy, is that boy strong up top, man. Very, very strong. I don't think he lost in any of the drills. At least I didn't see anything. I firmly have him as a day 2 second rounder. You could see his name at the end of round 1. Honestly, he's my highest ranked interior prospect, passing Biotish. So yeah, man, way to put on a show, bro. And then my final riser here before we get into a couple of losers, Troy Pride Jr. out of Notre Dame. He had the best week among the cornerbacks, which ain't saying much because the cornerbacks looked really bad, especially after Fulton and Gladney dropped out. He was probably the biggest name to watch outside of maybe Darnay Holmes, who he had a decent week himself. He was very competitive. Just gonna say that. But anyway, with Troy Pride, man, we knew, former track star, we knew this guy's gonna run like a low 4.3 or the high 4.3s. How's that work? Low 4.3s? Like 4.33, maybe even a 4.30. But he impressed me because I was thinking he might be better as a zone corner. But man, he was very sticky. He was stuck to every receiver. Like throughout one-on-ones, man, he would not give an inch in separation. However, he does have problems, and you kind of saw this during the season. He has problems trying to locate the catch point. But I mean, that's something that could be worked upon. He was easily the best corner there at the Senior Bowl. And I mean, honestly, no corner really helped their case there at the Senior Bowl. I think the only one, Pride, is the only one coming out looking really good and actually improved their stock. But let's go talk about the losers. Before we actually talk about the losers, because there's only a couple of guys I want to really hit on that really, I think, dramatically hurt their stock. Because honestly, a majority of the corners and the offensive tackles, they had really bad weeks, but typically I had them as day 3 guys anyway, so it didn't really, it's what you expect from day 3 guys. And I want to give a pass to Oregon's Calvin Throckmorton. He was a late addition. He showed up, I think, Tuesday, and they forced him to play left tackle, which he's never played before at Oregon. The guy's played everywhere else on the offensive line but left tackle, so they forced him to play left tackle, and it didn't go well. I think he's a guard at the NFL level anyway, so I'm basically, when it comes to this week's tape on Throckmorton, I'm just crumpling it up and throwing it away. Who else we got here maybe? Also, okay, quarterbacks. Quarterbacks looked pretty bad too, outside of Herbert. Jalen Hurts, I think he confirmed it for me. I think he's a day 3 guy. I mean, you could try to talk him as a 3rd round, but I don't know. You saw he was inaccurate. Yeah, and talking about inaccuracy, let's talk about Jordan Love, right? Jordan Love, at best, 2nd rounder. Even then, man, I think he's a 3rd rounder. He looked every bit the 2019 version of Jordan Love. He was very inaccurate on passes, but I know teams, I assume, they're going to drool over, oh man, look at the intangibles, look at his arm, and just, oh gosh, man, wow. And they're going to make the comparison to Mahomes, which is ridiculous. Can't believe people make that comparison. Mahomes was such an accurate quarterback, man. Gosh, he was a slinger. I don't think Jordan Love's a slinger. I mean, you could say that from his 2018 tape. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. I really liked him then. 2019, you could give him the benefit of the doubt, but I mean, even when you have a limited cast of playmakers, it shouldn't mean that you're that inaccurate, you know? So that was just one thing. I don't think it's going to hurt his stock much. Let's talk about Bassy, who I mentioned earlier. He didn't have the lowest win rate among the corners, but I think he had the most to prove. I mean, he came in weigh-ins, and you kind of figured he'd be a slot guy only. He came in at 5'9", 191, so you know you're working with limited size there. So like I said, you know he's going to be a slot guy. So you want to see him do well on the one-on-ones, right? You want to see him do well in man coverage. And I think he only won like 17% of those of the one-on-ones, which is compared to Troy Pride Jr., who won 50%. Yeah, it's pretty bad. So, and I'm not saying he didn't even have the lowest. You had I think Lamar Jackson was at 7, but I mean, he's a project anyway. You know, Bassy, he's been a starter for quite a long time. So now you have a guy who has to play slot, but he can't cover tight ends because of his size. He's not good at playing man, so he's strictly a zone slot guy. That type of limitations, it's hard to see him anything more than a late day 3 pick. I mean, honestly, this isn't really even the death nail to his stock. But I mean, nothing I saw at the Senior Bowl makes me want to use a draft pick on Bassy. And he was a prospect I really liked coming into the year, unfortunately. Nick Harris. Nick Harris is my last guy on this list. He hurt his stock a little bit. Let's just get into it. Okay, he was by far the most athletic lineman there at the Senior Bowl. Props. But the red flags came early. It came in when he came in super light. He came in below 300 pounds. As a lineman, it's like, whoa, man, well, you already know from his game tape he lacks playing strength. So you're coming in sub 300, showing you're not really improved. You want to come in looking bigger. Maybe, maybe he's going to be stronger. That wasn't the case. Then next, he had the smallest arms and wingspan outside of the long snapper from LSU, Blake Ferguson. So you don't want to be compared to the long snapper. You're supposed to be one of the top center prospects in this draft. And I mean, you saw it in the practices. He was just getting bullied. He was getting when he was bull rushed by a defensive interior lineman. He was literally just plopped into the lap of the quarterback like he was a baby. It was quite unfortunate. But like I said, he was very athletic, and it's probably the only reason I'm not going to drop him too low. But I think for most teams, this will take him off their board. But I've only dropped him to my number 7 offensive interior, and I think he's my 3rd center. But I mean, honestly, that could change. Cushenberry from LSU, he had a really good week, so I think I might pop him over Nick Harris here. But yeah, that's it for the video. Go ahead, do the YouTube thing. It's always much appreciated, much obliged. I'm starting to lose my voice, so I better get the heckles out of here. But until next time, you be easy, my friends. Later.